And from our studios here at Rage in Accra, the Akuya Wahima studio on DSTV channel 277, I am Bright Nana Kwesi Amini, and coming up in the next 60 minutes. Political analyst Benefsin envisages a hectic chairmanship contest between Asiedu Nketia and Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo after the former officially announced his decision not to seek re-election as the party's general secretary. Minority in Parliament raises concern over the delay in the provision of textbooks to basic schools across the country since they reopened on September 13, 2022. In the world of business, economist King Kao Dohu says Ghana's economy was headed for a ditch before the onset of the Russian-Ukraine war. And on the international front, Uganda detects 6 new cases of Ebola, raising the total number of confirmed cases to 7. We'll tell you more of this and others here on the news tonight. Stay with us. And thank you for joining us here tonight on the news. Now, the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, has officially announced his decision not to seek re-election as the party's General Secretary when the party goes to Congress this December. This follows rumors suggesting that the popularly known as General Mosquito is eyeing the party's chairmanship seat.
Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who became the NDC's General Secretary in 2005, believes it's time for him to make way for others to take over the administration of the party. In an interview on an Accra-based radio station, General Mosquito officially announced that he is stepping down and will not seek re-election as the NDC's General Secretary. Though Asiedu Nketia did not confirm rumors of him lacing up his boots to contest the chairmanship position, he hinted of announcing his move soon. The NDC is expected to go to Congress on December 17, 2022 to elect new national officers. Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno, is already lacing up his boots to lead the party as its next General Secretary. Dr. Otokuno is seeking to replace Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who has served the party as General Secretary for the past 17 years. Sources within the party suggest that Mr. Otokuno has the full support of Asiedu Nketia. Other contenders for the General Secretary position are Elvis Efiye Ankra and Fifi Kwete.
And we are now joined live by a political analyst, Benefsin, for more on this. Now, good evening to you, sir, and welcome to this night. What are your initial reactions to Asiedu Nketia's comments?
Well, I'm not too surprised. My intel has been that the NDC is targeting to have an Akan flag bearer for 2028. And it's likely that in post John Mahama, these two are Akans, and I suspect that the one who becomes the chairman of the party will be in pole position to be the flag bearer. And I've also had credible intelligence that Asiedu Nketia has met some regional executives and has told them he's going to contest for the national chairmanship. In fact, there will be 3. Incumbent for Asiedu Nketia, now leaving the general secretary position, and a former member of parliament in Niamey City. So these 3, I believe, are the ones who will be contesting for the NPP national chairmanship slot.
All right, you mentioned NPP, but yes, NDC national chairmanship slot. Now, so what does this mean to the party chairmanship race?
Well, I think that how the party conducts itself will put the party in a good shape or not towards 2024. I think that crucial to this, the impact, whether peaceful or not, whether it will affect the unity of the party, will be the role of John Mahama. I mean, I think that John Mahama is going to contest. He's the likely flag bearer, even though you may have one or two people challenging him. So it will be the attitude and the posture of John Mahama towards these three persons contesting. You know, if it is turbulent, it will be held, and I think in December this year. So if there are any infighting or so on, I'm sure they'll have about a year and a half at minimum to straighten matters. So this election is going to be very, very hectic between these two top members. So the role of John Mahama, if John Mahama stays partisan, may the best person win. But if he attempts to try and have his influence to support one person or the other, it may not be too good for the party moving forward.
Let's analyze these two persons, Ofusam Pofu, who is the incumbent, and someone that we are also foreseeing joining the race, Mercedes Nketia. What are their chances and what do they bring on board when they are elected or re-elected?
You see, for a party which has lost two elections, 2016, 2020, it's kind of bruised politically, and they will want to try and keep the trend of every party. You have 8 years and you go away. You need to have a chairman who would be respected across board. You need to have a chairman who will inspire confidence in the grassroots. And for the two of them, the nature of their positions, Asedun Ketia has been General Secretary. He has worked at the various levels in the party. He used to be a former member of parliament. The same with, for example, for former member of parliament, he'd be national chairman. So these two come in with almost, you know, credibility and longevity in the party's history. Now, the party's performance in 2024 will depend on two main things. How whoever the flag bearer conducts himself in terms of, because if John Mahama, the flag bearer, for example, and he supports A, and A does not win, you can be sure that the relationship between Mahama and the person that does not support will not be cordial. So I think that one, for the party's own future towards 2024, Mahama will have to be as neutral as possible. You know, as they say that, oh, anybody who is neutral is the one who is dead. But if you're going to support somebody even, you have to do it discreetly, because these are two leading members with, you know, big stature in the party. So the party's unity and coherence towards 2024 will be how the flag bearer or how the party hierarchy is non-partisan in terms of these two leading members.
And Benefsin, we know you for your almost 100% prediction when it comes to elections here in Ghana. Now, who among these two stand a chance of winning if elections are held today?
To be difficult. Mind you, there are going to be other elections to other positions. Asedun Ketia has vacated the General Secretaryship position, so it will be between the current Deputy General Secretary Otokuno and Elvis Ankra. So you need to bear in mind that definitely there are going to be slots. You know, people, they will be in camps. So if you ask me, maybe by November, middle of November, I'll be able to have an idea, because then we would have seen the slates, the various slates, because I'm sure the chairman will have to also have somebody who's going to, that chairman aspirant will have to support somebody, general secretary aspirant, so they can work in tandem. You see, so for example, I mean, if Asedu Nketia is supporting his deputy now, Otokuno, there are advantages and disadvantages. You know, the disadvantage will be that you work with the man. If you as chairman, you are doing something wrong, he cannot tell you. So maybe if I'm a delegate and I'm voting for example, Asedu Nketia, I will not elect his deputy general secretary as a secretary, that there will be no checks and balances. So I'm sure early November, you have an idea, the various positions, then you have an idea how things will work out. But it's not going to be easy for the main opposition party. It's going to be quite tough.
All right, Mr. Benefson, thank you so much for your time with us here on this night. And so Benefson is a pollster known for his almost 100% prediction when it comes to elections here in Ghana. Away from that, but still staying with the NDC in Parliament, as a deputy ranking member of Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Park is raising concerns over the delay in provision of textbooks to basic schools across the country since they reopened on the 13th of September this year. Now, this, he said, is in spite of the fact that the Minister for Education, Dr. Yao Osei Edichum, promised and reiterated that the books will be available by the time schools resumed when he appeared before the Parliamentary Select Committee on Government Assurance a few weeks ago. Let's now turn to our video wall and tell what exactly the concerns coming in from Clement Park really are. And as you can see on the screen, it says, why are the public basic schools in session without textbooks and capitation grant? Public basic schools in Ghana reopened on Tuesday, 13th September. This is the second week into the reopening of the third term for the 2021-2022 academic year. However, the issues of textbooks and payment of the capitation grant remain unresolved. One, textbooks checks indicate that basic schools are yet to receive the long-awaited textbooks. This is in spite of the fact that the Minister for Education promised and reiterated that the books will be available by the time schools resume when he appeared before the Parliamentary Select Committee on Government Assurances a few weeks ago, like I told you earlier. And the second one says, even before the minister's appearance before the committee, he and his deputy told the nation via various media interactions that the books were being moved to the regions from various printing houses for onward distribution to the schools. They assured that pupils will have textbooks when schools reopen. Well, schools are in session, so why are the textbooks not in the classrooms as promised? The third one says capitation grant. The capitation grant is in arrears for 6 tranches, which constitute 6 terms. Information from heads of basic schools confirm that not even a pesewa has been paid for the academic year. Now, the Minister for Education must address these matters with dispatch. Our basic schools need the textbooks and the capitation grant. And coming in from Dr. Clement Park, MP for Busa South and Deputy Ranking Member on Education Committee of Parliament. Let's now listen to what the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Edichum, said when queried on this issue during the Assurance Committee sitting of Parliament.
I made assurance on the floor of Parliament, and I stand by that assurance. As I speak with you, distribution of textbooks is ongoing around the country. In some places, have moved from the region to the district. In some places, have gone from district to the schools. So yes, I'm within the 3 months assurance period. And I'm excited to inform the committee that I am within my assurance period. I want you to know that as I speak with you, we have a number of textbooks distributed to the various regions. 6.4 million textbooks have been produced and distributed and the distribution is ongoing. Every region have them in their warehouse.
Let's get onto the phone lines now and speak to Dr. Clement Park on what exactly his statement really means here on the News Night. Good evening to you, sir. Welcome to News Night. Now, have you gotten any responses from either the Education Ministry or GES on why these textbooks haven't reached the schools yet?
Well, good evening to your viewers. The short answer to your question is no. I have not received any information from the minister nor the Ghana Education Service or any other person who has the capacity to confirm or deny what I've put out. The information that I've put in the public space actually got to me from heads of basic schools across the country. And indeed, I have no reason to doubt because they are in the theater. But what is worrisome is that, for over 3 years, we have been waiting to get books to complement the now present standard-based curriculum. For the books to be produced, and from the minister's own promises and pronouncements, the books are supposed to have been conveyed to the regions and even to the districts. So if that is the case, how come that schools reopen on the 13th of this month? This is the second week, and yet the books are not available in the schools, and the students and the people don't have them as were promised. So we expect the minister or a representative of the ministry to respond, because we need to know what the hold-up is.
And how come heads of these schools have remained quiet, even though it's gravely affecting academic work?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. It's just within the context of, the fear to speak up, the fear of being victimized, the intimidation that has characterized the way the current regime functions. And it is not just confined to basic schools. Even at the secondary school level, we know that heads of those schools have become so fearful of retribution from government if and when they speak truthfully and honestly to challenges bedeviling, the education that we all seek to provide to our wards. Because, this is not the first time, and it is unfortunate. But at least I have the voice to project what they want to say and cannot say. And I've done just that. So we wait to see what the response is going to be as far as this issue is concerned. But there can be no excuse. We were promised that the books will be in school. Schools have reopened since the 13th, and the books are not there.
And are we to expect the calling of the Education Minister, Yawadi Chum, in Parliament to answer some question as to why these books have not yet arrived in the schools, as we were told earlier?
Yes, because we have a responsibility to hold those we are financing to dispense, responsibilities to us as accountable. So if, the resources have been made available after so many years now, the books have been produced, and yet they are not in the classrooms, he ought to answer some questions, because, it is not normal, I would argue. There has to be a reason why the books are not in the classrooms as were promised. And I think Ghanaians, we have the right to know what that reason is, whether it is because somebody is perhaps sleeping on the job, or the information that we were provided in terms of the context of the promise was in itself wrong. We need to know why this is not happening.
All right, thank you so much. We are grateful for your time with us here on the news. And so, Dr. Clement Apang is Parliament Ranking Member on Education. So, from one ranking member to the other, Ranking Member on Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, is demanding the dismissal, arrest, and subsequent prosecution of Ghanaian officials involved in the AISHA conspiracy. Now, the Galamsey campaign is standing trial for the alleged involvement in mining operations without license and entering Ghana illegally. The North Torn MP, in a Facebook post, is demanding public inquiry into the scandal.
The AISHA conspiracy, looks like an ending one following fresh revelations by the ranking member of Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Okujeto Ablakwa. In 25-pointer posts on his Facebook wall, the North Tongue MP, amongst other things, revealed that the Galante Kemping has 2 Chinese passports with different dates of births. He adds the Chinese government owes Ghana some urgent clarifications on the genuineness of both passports and if they are genuine, why AISHA 1 was issued a second one. The MP said there is enough evidence that AISHA 1 made multiple trips to Togo and back to Ghana since February 2019, which he believes were not on the blind side of Ghanaian authorities. He said she didn't sneak in and out through an approved route as the Ghanaian government's jumbled narrative suggests. The former Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister further demanding that all Ghanaian officials involved in the conspiracy should be fired and charged along with AISHA 1 in the current prosecution. He ended with an argument that the scandal requires a full independent Article 278 Commission of Inquiry, which must be broadcast live to all Ghanaians.
Let's now go to Mankasim, where suspects arrested in connection with the murder of a 25-year-old nursing student at Mankasim in the central region have confessed to committing the crime. The two, a self-styled pastor, Michael Dakon, and Christopher Echo Clark, have been remanded for 2 weeks into police custody.
The deceased Georgina Asso Boche was reported missing on September 10, 2022. The two, a self-styled pastor, Michael Dakon, alias Nana 1, and Christopher Echo Clark, Tufuhene of Aqua Chrome, a suburb of Mankasim, were arrested at their various hideouts following police investigation. Police in a statement said the two have confessed murdering the victim for money rituals. During police interrogation, suspect Michael Dakon, who is the alleged boyfriend of the senior sister of the deceased victim and was last seen with her, led the police to the location where they buried her after the murder. The body has since been exhumed and deposited at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital morgue for preservation and autopsy. The two accused persons were on Thursday, September 22, arraigned before the District Court 2 in Cape Coast and have been remanded to reappear before the court on October 4, 2022.
Live from our studios here at Reach in Accra, this is News Night. So, need to make an urgent call, but you realize you don't have credit, or your very important conversation was cut short because you ran out of airtime. Well, there is no need for all that stress because all you have to do on MTN is dial *506# and you get to borrow credit on MTN Extra Time. The best part is you can also borrow data by dialing the same number *506# and you can bundle data wherever you run out of credit to continue on browsing. As always, your conversations don't need to end. Borrow extra time now and enjoy the things you love on your favorite network, MTN.
But to our surprise, one party will sit down somewhere to say that, or to write a letter that they should review it, or they should reduce certain tax, which in itself is
Welcome back, and this is still News Night. Now, 3 unions of the University of Ghana are kicking against government's move to scrap the vehicle maintenance allowance for junior staff of the university. In an emergency meeting by staff of the university, the union said they are already suffering under the impact of the rising cost of fuel and spare parts, adding the decision by government will worsen their plight.
The 3 teacher unions include the Teachers and Educational Workers Union, Federation of Universities Senior Staff Association, and Senior Staff Association of the University of Ghana. According to the associations, a letter from the Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission bordering on the vehicle maintenance allowance is discriminatory and unfair.
Na Zakaria Guma is the secretary for TEU Local.
This vehicle maintenance allowance is negotiations was done, and it is part of our CBA, if you like, conditions of service. And therefore, the law is also clear. In reviewing the CBA or the conditions of service, you will need some stakeholders who signed or ascended to the agreement to meet to do it. But to our surprise, one party will sit down somewhere to say that, or to write a letter that they should review it, or they should reduce certain terms, which in itself is unwarranted.
The chairman of the Senior Staff Association of the University of Ghana, Kolebu Local, Alhaji Haruna Rafik, said the increment in fuel prices is biting hard on members of the association, adding the union will be forced to advise themselves if government fails to adhere to their demand.
This allowance, this car maintenance allowance, has always been calculated and pegged on the fuel prices, and we all know the prices of fuel. So last month there was an increment in this allowance because of the rising cost of fuel. Then all of a sudden we are told this month is supposed to be slashed down again. That is for those that they are saying are entitled. It should be slashed down, and the junior staff, it should be taken off. On both scores we do not agree, and so we are telling whoever is responsible, that is the GTEC which has issued that letter, that they should reverse that letter that they have written. Other than that, unions will be forced to advise themselves.
They urged government to leave the vehicle maintenance allowance as it is.
Now, an executive director of the Institute for Education Studies, Dr. Peter Anti, has described as unrealistic a recommendation by the Ghana National Council for Private Schools to scrap the West African Examination Council. The private schools are pushing for the abolishment of the Examination Council, arguing that it has failed to contribute positively to the educational development in the country. But Dr. Anti says getting an oversight body to ensure things work out properly at WAEC instead will solve the various challenges going forward. There's more in this report.
The Ghana National Council for Private Schools has called on government to collapse the West African Examination Council. The council argues that the examination body has outlived its aim and purpose and has no positive impact or contribution towards educational development in Ghana. Their concerns come at the back of recent findings by WAEC in the 2022 ongoing West African Senior School Certificate Examination. Speaking in an interview with Metro Television News, Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, Dr. Peter Anti, says the recommendation by NACOPS is outrageous and will not in any way solve the various challenges, including examination malpractices.
So I don't think that scrapping WAEC is the right thing to do. I know why the private schools are talking about this is because of what the WAEC is saying, which most of us also are aware that in terms of examination malpractices, sometimes it becomes difficult for WAEC officials and officials of Ghana Education Service sometimes to enter some of these private schools, and the WAEC is also suggesting that most of the private schools encourage examination malpractices, and that is a worry for WAEC. So if they scrap WAEC, what happens next? You're going to set a new body. That new body is also going to start conducting exams. Examination leakages will come, and when they come, then you suggest again that we scrap that body. That's why I'm thinking that this recommendation is outrageous, and we should not even be talking. We should look at how we reform WAEC, and the highest point will be how do we get an oversight body that would make sure that when WAEC is not doing the right thing, they would help WAEC to toe the line.
The Private Schools Council wants government to develop career advancement, portfolio building, and productive assessment programs to test students instead of wasting funds at WAEC to conduct examinations. The West African Examination Council is, however, looking to engage the Ghana National Council for Private Schools over the various concerns raised.
Still on education, Education Minister Yao Edichum has criticized the education practices of only memorizing lessons for sake of passing exams. According to him, the practice of chew and pour is not giving African students the chance to be innovative.
The minister's criticism stems from his experience and interaction with brilliant African students who have dulled by the practice of learning for the sake of passing their exams. During his speech at the 2022-2023 UN General Assembly, the minister expressed his disappointment over theory-filled learning practices in African schools. He encouraged that the curriculum be filled with materials that will change the mind and behavior of the African student.
You can't memorize your way out of poverty, but you can critically think and innovate out of poverty. So Ghanaian schools, Africans will have to begin to take a serious look at what I call the assertive curriculum. A curriculum that empowers the African child to ask questions and challenge the status quo respectfully within the African cultural context.
The minister also advocated for the increase in STEM participation among African students, terming it the solution to rote memorization.
A full steam ahead in terms of ensuring that we can increase the numbers of our students participating in STEM and STEAM, and that is how we put to rest the issue of rote memorization. You can't do rote memorization in STEM. We have to really participate in the learning process and make sure that we can get the critical mass that with the critical minds that we need for our transformation.
Programs evaluator for Education Watch, Divine Kwe, urged that government will have to put in measures such as financing to make this goal achievable.
If we are able to promote the teaching skills of the teachers by engaging them in continuous professional development, they'll also be able to have the skills that will be able to help these students to be part of the skills development that we want. And not only the helping the teachers, but the teaching aids are needed, the resources that are needed for this practical aspect of conversation we are talking about equally must be made available for the student. If you critical thinking at times, it means that students must be manipulating objects, teaching and learning objects, but if they don't have them in a classroom, how do they manipulate them? If we want them to come out with other innovative ways of doing things, if they don't see some of the things that provoke their thinking, how would they be able to think critically about it?
Away from education now to health, 18 out of every 100 men who have sex with men have HIV/AIDS. This is according to the National AIDS Control Program. The head of strategic unit at the program, Kenneth Danso, says stigmatization is a major factor hindering improvement in the lives of people with the disease.
Efforts to fight the human immunodeficiency virus HIV pandemic has seen many countries struggle to achieve the United Nations Millennium Development Goals to reduce the number of new HIV infections and mortality from acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS. This is particularly seen among key populations who bear a disproportionate burden of the global HIV prevalence, such as men who have sex with men, MSM. In 2017, it was estimated that 1.3% of the general adult population lives with HIV in Ghana. This is in contrast to a prevalence of 17.5% among Ghanaian MSM, which is nearly 15 times higher than in the general population. There are additional regional disparities in HIV prevalence among MSM and estimated as high as 34.3% in the Greater Accra region and 13.7% in the Ashanti Metropolitan region. Kenneth Danso is the head of strategic unit of the National AIDS Control Program.
The data that we have for every 100 men, every 100 MSM, so men who have sex with men, you have about 18 who test positive to HIV.
A study examining HIV risk factor of MSM in Ghana found that a high population of men in their sample of 93% had more than one partner.
People should know their HIV status. So realize that there are people who don't want to go and know their HIV status. Some of them think that there are so many myths concerning HIV. Some are thinking that, okay, it's as a result of a case.
The public health care system in Ghana is the cornerstone of providing comprehensive HIV prevention education and clinical prevention services to key populations at disproportionate risk of the HIV infection. However, stigmatization is one of the many reasons why persons living with the virus shy away from PrEPing.
And he had right, 18 out of every 100 men who have sex with men have HIV/AIDS here in Ghana. There is more news after the break. Winston will be here with business. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Newsnight Live on Metro TV. My name is Winston Taki. And now to Four's business story. An economic and financial consultant, King Kalduhu, has said that Ghana's economy was headed for a ditch before the onset of the Russian-Ukraine war. He said this on the back of the International Monetary Fund assessment of the economy, which revealed cracks in the economy.
On July 1, the government made a sudden U-turn on its initial decision not resorting to the IMF. Consequently, a team from the IMF arrived in Ghana to start negotiations with the government. The IMF, in its first meeting, noted that Ghana is facing a challenging economic situation propelled by Russia-Ukraine war and COVID-19. But the minority believes the IMF is managing the situation so they do not create fear and panic that will further exacerbate the issue. The IMF Director of Communications, Gary Rice, at a press conference maintained that, just like any other economy, the current Ghanaian economy has been pressed very hard by development in Ukraine as well as COVID-19 shocks.
Our mission chief for the IMF also recently visited Accra again to meet with key counterparts, and we're hopeful for another visit in the coming weeks. I don't have the date for you. I would say, just to repeat, the war in Ukraine has triggered a global economic shock that's hitting Ghana and, as I said, many other countries, and all at a time when, for many of these countries, their room for fiscal maneuver, if I could put it that way, is already extremely limited because they've used a lot of fiscal power already.
President Akufo-Addo at the recent UN 77th General Assembly meeting in New York reiterated the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war on African economies.
It is not just the dismay that we feel at seeing such deliberate devastation of cities and towns in Europe in the year 2022. We're feeling this war directly in our lives in Africa. Every bullet, every bomb, every shell that hits a target in Ukraine hits our pockets and our economies in Africa.
But the question remains, what is the real cause of the economic woes of the country? An economist and financial consultant, King Kalduhu, believes Ghana's economy had fractures before the onset of the Russian-Ukraine war.
What the Russian-Ukraine war did was to just take an X-ray scan of our economy. So because the economy already had some fractures in it, in our bones as an economy, we have fractures. What the Russia-Ukraine war did was to just show and reflect that these are where the problems are. For me, where I stand and from the various documents and the various things that I've read from our standpoint, well, to some extent, the Russia-Ukraine war contributed to some of the things, especially with regards to the food pricing and all of that. But then the point is that, do we have resilient systems that could have overcome the shocks? We do not have. The quality of leadership is...
The International Monetary Fund is set to deploy another mission to Ghana in the coming weeks.
Now, economist Kwame Pianim has urged the citizenry to speak truth to power whilst pointing out wrongdoings of leaders and successive governments. According to him, Ghana would regain its status as the beacon of Africa if rule of law is allowed to work. He was speaking at an award dinner for 15 media legends in Accra.
Whilst making reference to personalities like Sam Jonah, Kwesi Pratt Jr., Anthony Akoto Ampao, who exhibited patriotism by owing up to put the then leaders back on track, Kwame Pianim expressed disappointment over the current generation's inability to imitate them. According to him, the country is headed to the wrong directions and will take braveness and courage by citizens to salvage the situation.
One of the things that we need in order to be able to move forward. People say that it's a culture. I will not give it the definition of a culture. We have an attitude that opening in your bonnet, the elder doesn't go wrong, doesn't err. And because of that, we refuse to make sure that all of us live under the law, on the rule of law. Opening your bonnet in the language means precisely this. An elder doesn't err because they know the rules and laws and they adhere to it. We cannot explain it in any other way. And we should be courageous enough when our elders are erring to go and tell them, you've erred.
He said reviewing the 1992 Constitution will not bring about a positive transformation if there's no change of attitude.
All our leaders, religious, economic, political, in the church, workplace, because we see our bosses all there, and we say they do no wrong. They should all be under the law. If Ghana, we don't put ourselves under the law like Singapore did, we can't move. But if we do, rule of law, we should be able to move there.
He lauded the award organizers for honoring the legends, but appealed to them to go beyond awarding them with plaques. In all, 15 Ghanaian media legends were awarded for their contribution in holding governments accountable and ensuring some level of freedom. They are Sam Jonah, Godwin Avenogbo, Professor Kwame Kakari, Nana Kofi Kunsin, Kwesi Pratt Jr., Anthony Akoto Ampao, and Professor Paul Vianney. The rest are Elizabeth Ohini, Kweku Sechi Ado, Gifty Afenyidazi, Abdul Malik Kweku Baku, among others. Former President John Kufuor also received an award for supporting the media during his tenure.
That'll be all for business here on Newsnight. My name is Winston Taki. Sports is next. Well, good evening. It's time for sports. My name is Phil John Quarter. Tomorrow, the Black Stars of Ghana will plan to do a serious training ahead of the World Cup with two friendly matches. First one playing the Seleções of Brazil. That is tomorrow starting at 18 hours CMT. One player who will get the opportunity to play for the Black Stars for the very first time is Antoine Semenyo, who is looking forward to the tie.
I'm happy, obviously, being with the team again. Obviously, I went back, unfortunately, because of the injury, but it's good to be back. I'm ready to show the Ghanaians what I can do, so I'm ready and raring to go. So I'm carrying that fiery edge, so, you know, when I get a chance, I know I'll score and, you know, make the country proud, so I'm just waiting for my opportunity again. It's very important, so obviously we've got some new boys in with us, so all of us can gel together, get used to how we play, and, you know, come together as a group and, you know, perform on the big stage. So, you know, everyone's in good spirits, everyone's got good vibes, so, you know, we're all ready to go, so can't wait. I mean, it's healthy competition, everyone's fighting for their spot, so, you know, if you get that #1 spot, you want to keep it, so that's what I'm fighting for. I just want to, you know, show the world stage what I can do, show them I can score, I can link play, I can run in behind if I need to, so, you know, like I said, I'm raring to go, I'm ready when I'm called upon.
English-based Antoine Semenyo preparing for that match against the Seleções tomorrow in that friendly. But remember that on the 27th of September, Ghana will play against Nicaragua as part of preparations for the World Cup. Well, let's go to you, Buddha, because some matches are ongoing in the Euro Nation style. Earlier on, the men from Edinburgh, Scotland, beat Ukraine by 3-0. Currently playing, Croatia are playing against Denmark. They are drawing goalless. Then France are also drawing goalless with Austria. Belgium are also leading, I think it's 2-2 rather. Belgium are leading 2-0 against Wales. The Netherlands are playing in Warsaw against Poland. They are leading by a 1-0.
Lithuania are drawing with fellow islands. 1-1 is the scoreline, and Turkey are also drawing 2-2 with Luxembourg. So those are the scores now. Earlier on, it was Slovakia that beat, I think they are rather playing Azerbaijan now. Latvia were home, they were beaten by Moldova by 2-1, whilst it's goalless involving Liechtenstein and Andorra. So those are the scores coming from the EuroLeague matches currently ongoing. That's your sports. My name is Phil John Quarty. Up next, Showbiz.
It's now time for entertainment news. Now, what legendary bands or musical artists did you see live back in the day? Did you or do you still sing along to some of the songs that makes you feel nostalgic? Today on Throwback Thursday, we throw the spotlight on the top 3 music groups back in the day. Let's check this out.
These music groups were big back in the day. They gave us good music with great performances, and they were the talk of town during their time. Let's start with Nakorex. Nakorex was a Ghanaian high-life supergroup active in the 1990s. The band was formed in 1992 by musicians Nat Brew, Rex Omar, and Akosua Japan, and took its name from the first few letters of each member's name. Brew and Japan were later married. Their musical style combined high-tech and standard instruments with an emphasis on live performances. They belonged to a younger generation of high-life musicians who utilized indigenous resources to create high-life music using state-of-art techniques. Akitiche. The duo of Akitiche is made up of 2 brothers, Prince Kwabna Budu Asumenin Kobi Culture and Ebenezer Kwesi Ochre Asumenin King Pharaoh. They released their 5th album and managed to enjoy massive airplay even after almost a decade since their debut. They came out with their maiden album Odesisime in 1999, which won them the Best Hip Live Song Award at the maiden edition of the Ghana Music Awards in 2000.
Studio dancing to it, but that's it for entertainment news on Newsnight. My name is Harriet Eddy. Over to you.
All right, Harriet, thank you so much. And I know that Black Sheriff is out there with some hot banger out there called Soldier. Up next is the latest on the international front.
Uganda on Thursday said it has detected 6 new cases of Ebola, raising the total number of confirmed cases to 7. A local daily reported on Wednesday that the death toll has risen to 12, citing authorities. On Tuesday, the East African country confirmed an outbreak of hemorrhagic fever in the central district of Mubenda, about 150 kilometers west of the capital, Kampala. Ecuador's authority confirmed Wednesday that the death of a woman lawyer who disappeared more than a week ago inside the main police officer training center where her husband was an instructor. Following Russia's announcement yesterday, thousands of extra troops will be called up to fight the war in Ukraine. A Russian military spokesperson has said that around 10,000 Russians have already volunteered for their own accord on the first day of the mobilization drive.
And it's been such a pleasure serving here tonight on Newsnight. I am Bryce Nanakwesi Aminin. Have a good evening and good night.